On a cold, uncertain night, an unexpected encounter reveals hidden secrets that have the power to change lives in unimaginable ways. Samuel adjusted his cufflinks, ensuring every detail of his tailored suit was immaculate as he navigated the bustling streets of New York City. The evening air was crisp, filled with the scent of autumn leaves and the distant sound of music from nearby cafes. He could hear the honking of taxis and the chatter of pedestrians, but his mind was preoccupied with the weight of the charity gala he was about to attend. As a renowned businessman, he had dedicated much of his life to philanthropy, but tonight felt particularly significant. He was set to deliver a speech that could potentially change lives and inspire others to contribute to a cause he deeply believed in. Tonight, I'll share how we can make a difference, he thought, mentally rehearsing his words. The thought of making an impact fueled his determination, but a flicker of doubt crept in. Was he truly making a difference, or merely playing a part in a system that often felt hollow? He sighed, pushing the thoughts aside as he approached the grand entrance of the hotel, its opulence a stark contrast to the reality he would soon encounter. As he stepped out of the cab, his attention was drawn to a dimly lit corner just outside the hotel. There, under a flickering streetlight, sat a young woman, her figure hunched against the cold. A thin blanket wrapped around her and an infant nestled against her chest. Samuel's heart sank as he took in the scene. The woman's tired eyes, filled with desperation, were a painful reminder of the disparities that existed in a city that thrived on wealth and success. He hesitated, caught in a moment of internal conflict. "Excuse me." He finally approached her, his voice softening amidst the cacophony of the city. "Are you all right?" Natalia looked up, her expression a mixture of surprise and caution. "I'm managing," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She shifted the blanket, revealing her baby's tiny face, scrunched up in the cold. "Just waiting for the bus." Samuel glanced at the bus stop, then back at her, noticing the shivering infant. "It's freezing out here. Why don't you come inside? I can help you find shelter." She narrowed her eyes, skepticism etched across her face. "Why would you do that?" "Because it's the right thing to do," Samuel responded earnestly, his heart aching at the sight of her plight. "I'm headed to a charity event. I can't just walk by and forget what I've seen." For a brief moment, Natalia's guard faltered as she considered his offer. The warmth of his kindness seemed genuine, yet the streets had taught her to be wary. "I don't know you," she murmured, anxiety creeping into her voice. "I understand," he said, his tone reassuring. "But I promise, you'll be safe with me. You and your baby deserve a warm place to stay." As she weighed her options, Samuel felt a deep sense of urgency. He was torn between his commitment to the gala and the undeniable pull to help this mother in need. Finally, with a resigned sigh, Natalia nodded. "All right, just for a little while." "Thank you," he said, relief flooding over him as he led her towards his car. The warmth inside was a stark contrast to the cold night, and as they settled into the seats, Samuel couldn't help but steal glances at Natalia, her tired expression reflecting a life filled with hardship. "I'm Samuel," he introduced himself, breaking the silence. "What's your name?" "Natalia," she replied softly, adjusting the blanket around her baby. I used to have a job, but things got tough after my husband left." "I'm sorry to hear that," he said, genuinely moved. "You're doing your best, and that's what matters." They drove in silence for a moment, the weight of their circumstances hanging heavily in the air. Samuel's mind raced as he thought about the gala he was missing, the speeches he had prepared, and the lives he hoped to inspire. Yet, the truth was, sitting beside Natalia, he felt a deeper connection forming, one that transcended the superficiality of his world. As they neared his home, Samuel's heart was heavy, not with disappointment for the evening ahead, but with a newfound understanding. Perhaps this encounter was exactly what he needed, a reminder of why he dedicated his life to philanthropy in the first place. As the rain poured relentlessly, Samuel stepped outside the Grand Hotel, the sounds of laughter and clinking glasses fading behind him. The cold droplets hit his face like tiny needles, but it was the sight of Natalia that pierced him more deeply. She remained at the bus stop, her figure almost swallowed by the night, the baby nestled against her chest, wrapped in a threadbare blanket. The contrast between the luxury of the gala and her vulnerable state tugged at his heartstrings. He approached her slowly, his shoes splashing in the puddles. "Hey there," he said softly, his voice barely rising above the sound of the rain. Natalia looked up, her eyes wide with surprise and a flicker of distrust. Samuel could see the hesitation etched on her face, the uncertainty that came from a life of hardship. "Would you like a ride? I can take you somewhere warm," he offered, his voice laced with genuine concern. For a moment, Natalia didn't respond. She studied him, searching for any sign of deceit. "Why would you want to help me?" she finally asked, her voice trembling slightly, not just from the cold, but from a lifetime of skepticism. "Because no one should be out here in this weather, especially with a little one," Samuel replied, his brow furrowed in earnestness. "I have a home nearby. You can stay until the storm passes. It's the least I can do." After a long pause, she glanced down at the baby, who was sleeping soundly, oblivious to the night's troubles. The instinct to protect her child outweighed her doubt. "Okay," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper, "but I need to get back to the bus stop afterward." "Of course," he reassured her, guiding her toward his car. The warmth enveloped them as they settled inside, the engine purring to life. Samuel couldn't help but steal glances at Natalia as he drove, noting her cautious demeanor. She sat stiffly, clutching the baby tightly, her eyes darting to the window as if she were afraid to believe in this moment of safety. "What's your name?" he asked, trying to break the ice. "Natalia," she replied, her voice still guarded. "And this is my son, Lucas." "Lucas," Samuel repeated, a smile tugging at his lips. "That's a beautiful name. How old is he?" "Just 3 months," she said, her expression softening as she spoke of her son. "He's my whole world." As they arrived at his lavish home, Natalia's breath hitched in her throat. The opulence was overwhelming, a stark contrast to her reality. She hesitated at the entrance, looking up at the sprawling mansion, its lights shining brightly against the dark sky. "Please, come inside," Samuel urged, sensing her trepidation. He opened the door wide, inviting her into the warmth. "You're safe here." Crossing the threshold felt like stepping into a different world. The interior was adorned with elegant furnishings, art lining the walls, and a sense of comfort that was foreign to Natalia. Samuel noticed her awe, but also the tension in her posture. "I'll get you something to eat," he said, trying to ease her discomfort. As he moved to the kitchen, Natalia's nerves began to settle, though a part of her remained alert, attuned to any potential danger. She looked around, her eyes landing on a family photo on the wall, a smiling couple with 2 children, their faces radiating joy. It sparked a pang of longing in her heart, a reminder of the family life she had always dreamed of, but never had. "Do you have any allergies?" Samuel called from the kitchen, breaking her reverie. "No, I'm fine," she replied quickly, her voice carrying a hint of uncertainty. "I appreciate your kindness, but I don't want to impose." Samuel returned with a steaming bowl of soup, the aroma filling the air. "You're not imposing, Natalia. This is what I want to do. Please eat. You and Lucas need it." As they sat at the dining table, Natalia took a tentative sip of the soup, the warmth spreading through her body. "Thank you," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "I didn't expect this." "I know it's a lot," Samuel said, his gaze steady on her. "But I want to help. You deserve to feel safe and cared for." Natalia looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of ulterior motives, but all she saw was sincerity. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked, her voice trembling again. "Because I've been fortunate in life, and I want to share that fortune with those who need it most," he replied earnestly. "And right now, that's you and Lucas." The walls she had built around her heart began to crack just a bit, and for the first time in a long while, Natalia felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, she was not as alone as she had believed. As the evening shadows stretched across the opulent interiors of Samuel's home, Natalia wandered through the vast rooms, feeling an overwhelming mix of gratitude and discomfort. The marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of the chandeliers, and the elegant furnishings told stories of wealth and privilege. Yet each luxurious detail reminded her of the stark contrast between her world and this one. She paused in front of a large painting that depicted a serene landscape, the colors vibrant and inviting. "How could someone like me ever fit into a place like this?" she murmured to herself, her voice barely above a whisper. A soft rustle in the hallway snapped her from her reverie. Just then, she caught sight of Samuel's belongings, a tailored jacket draped over a chair, a designer watch resting on a side table. It was all so foreign, yet it made her feel a flicker of warmth. She could sense that Samuel was different. His kindness, so genuine, had pierced through her defenses, but doubt lingered in her mind. How could he truly understand the life she had lived, the struggles that weighed her down like a heavy shroud? The door swung open, and Samuel stepped inside, his expression shifting from surprise to concern as he noticed Natalia standing alone in the dimly lit room. "I hope you're feeling comfortable," he said, his voice laced with warmth. "I didn't mean to leave you here alone for so long." Natalia forced a smile, but the worry etched on her face didn't escape him. "It's beautiful here," she admitted, her gaze drifting back to the painting. "But it's overwhelming." "I can only imagine," Samuel replied, stepping closer. "I know this is a lot to take in, especially after everything you've been through tonight. But you're safe here, Natalia. Please remember that." There was sincerity in his eyes, a promise that resonated with her heart. Before she could respond, the sudden blare of sirens echoed from outside, piercing the calm that had settled in the house. Natalia's heart raced as she instinctively turned toward the window. "What's happening?" she asked, anxiety rising in her chest. Samuel's expression shifted, a flicker of worry crossing his face. "I don't know," he said, moving toward the door, "but I'll find out." He hurried out, leaving Natalia standing in the silence, her thoughts racing. After what felt like an eternity, Samuel reappeared, his face pale. "My father, Edovaldo. He's had an emergency. An ambulance is outside," he explained, urgency lacing his voice. Natalia's heart sank. She could see the panic rising in Samuel's eyes, and something deep within her stirred. "Is he okay?" she asked, stepping forward, her instincts kicking in. "What can I do?" "Just stay here, Natalia. I need to call my mother," he replied, but her determination was unwavering. "No," she insisted, surprising even herself with her resolve. "Let me help. I've seen emergencies before." Without waiting for his response, she rushed past him, her heart pounding as she made her way outside. The scene was chaotic. Paramedics were already tending to Edovaldo, who lay on the ground, conscious but clearly in distress. Samuel stood beside him, his face a mask of concern. As Natalia approached, she noticed Edovaldo's eyes fluttering, and a wave of compassion surged through her. "Mr. Edovaldo," she called gently, kneeling beside him. "Stay with me. Focus on my voice." He looked at her, confusion in his eyes, but she could see the flicker of recognition. "You're going to be okay. Just breathe deeply." "Who are you?" he managed, his voice weak. "I'm Natalia. I'm here to help," she reassured him, maintaining eye contact, her hands resting gently on his arm. "Just keep talking to me. What's your name?" "Edovaldo. Edovaldo. My son." His voice trailed off, and Natalia felt a surge of urgency. "Your son is right here," she said, glancing back at Samuel, who was now speaking frantically to a paramedic. "He needs you to stay awake. Focus on him." Samuel turned at her words, his expression shifting from panic to gratitude. "Natalia, what are you doing?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "I need to keep him conscious," she replied, her voice steady. "Just help me keep him talking." Samuel nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. "Dad, can you hear me?" Samuel said, kneeling on the other side of Edovaldo. "Stay with us. What's your favorite memory?" Edovaldo's breaths were ragged, but he managed a faint smile. "Fishing. By the lake," he murmured, his eyes drifting. Natalia squeezed his arm gently, urging him to focus. Tell us more about it, please, she encouraged, her heart racing with the weight of the moment. The paramedics worked swiftly, but her presence seemed to anchor Edivaldo, keeping him tethered to the present. Fishing. With Samuel, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. Samuel's eyes glistened with unshed tears, and in that moment, Natalia felt an unbreakable bond forming between them all, one that transcended their circumstances. As the paramedics prepared to lift Edivaldo onto a stretcher, Natalia felt a sense of relief wash over her. They had made it through the crisis together, and in that fleeting moment, she understood the profound impact of compassion and connection. Samuel's grateful gaze met hers, and for the first time, she felt truly seen. As days turned into weeks, the atmosphere within Samuel's lavish home began to shift. Edivaldo, recovering from his medical emergency, expressed a newfound appreciation for life and for the kindness that Natalia had shown during his time of crisis. Sitting in the sun-drenched living room, adorned with elegant furniture and family portraits, he looked at Natalia with a warmth that made her heart swell. "You have a rare gift, Natalia," Edivaldo said, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "You saved my life, and for that I am grateful. I'd like to propose something to you." Natalia, who had assumed her time in their home was only temporary, sat up straighter, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Edivaldo leaned forward, his eyes twinkling with a mixture of hope and sincerity. "I've been thinking about my age and my limitations. I can no longer manage without help. Would you consider staying on as my caregiver? You could help me regain my strength, and in return, I could offer you a stable income. It could be a new beginning for you and your child." Natalia felt a rush of conflicting emotions. This was an opportunity she had not anticipated, a chance to rebuild her life while simultaneously contributing to a family that had shown her kindness when the world had seemed so cold. I don't know what to say," she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "Say yes," Samuel interjected, entering the room with a tray of freshly brewed coffee. He set it down on the coffee table, his eyes flicking between Edivaldo and Natalia. "You deserve this. You've done more than we could have asked for, Natalia. Your strength and compassion shine through every moment." With Samuel's encouragement, Natalia felt a glimmer of hope. "I'd like that," she finally said, her voice steadier. "I'd like to stay." Over the next few weeks, Natalia settled into her new role seamlessly. She found joy in caring for Edivaldo, helping him regain his strength through physical therapy and shared moments filled with laughter. Samuel, too, felt a sense of relief. Watching Natalia flourish in this new chapter warmed his heart. The bond among the three of them deepened, and they began to share personal stories over dinner, transforming the lavish dining room into a sanctuary of trust and friendship. "Do you ever miss your life before all this?" Samuel asked one evening as they sat around the table, a delicious homemade meal before them. Natalia paused, contemplating his question. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but I've realized that life is about the connections we make, not just about material things. I've met people who truly care, and that's worth more than any luxury I could possess." Samuel nodded, his heart swelling at her words. "You have a perspective that many people lack. It's refreshing." As time passed, Samuel and Natalia grew closer, their friendship blossoming into something deeper. They would steal quiet moments together, sharing dreams, thoughts, and laughter that echoed through the halls of the home. Yet Samuel found himself torn, caught between his growing feelings for Natalia and the societal expectations that loomed over him. One evening, as they stood on the balcony looking out at the twinkling skyline of New York, Natalia turned to him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, curiosity dancing in her eyes. "It's just—" He hesitated, the weight of his thoughts heavy on his shoulders. "I've never connected with anyone the way I do with you, but I worry about how people will perceive us. You deserve the world, Natalia." She smiled softly, her gaze unwavering. "I'm not looking for the world, Samuel. Just a place where I belong, and I feel that here, with you and Edivaldo." Samuel's heart raced at her words, but before he could respond, a knock at the door interrupted their moment. Clara, a renowned humanitarian doctor and one of Samuel's closest friends, walked in, her presence filling the room. "Samuel, I wanted to discuss the upcoming charity event," she exclaimed, her energy infectious. As she noticed Natalia, her expression softened. "And who is this lovely lady?" "This is Natalia," Samuel replied, pride evident in his voice. "She's been helping us a lot, especially with my father." Clara stepped closer, studying Natalia with keen interest. "It's wonderful to meet you, Natalia. I've heard so much about you. You've made quite an impression." "Thank you," Natalia replied, feeling a mix of gratitude and apprehension under Clara's piercing gaze. As they exchanged pleasantries, Clara's eyes fell upon Natalia's arm, where a distinctive scar caught her attention. "That scar, it looks familiar. Can I ask how you got it?" Natalia shifted uncomfortably, memories flooding back of a time long gone, one filled with pain and loss. "It's from a childhood accident," she replied, her voice low. Clara's expression shifted, recognition dawning on her face. "I once knew someone who had a similar scar. She was my daughter." The air grew thick with unspoken words as Clara's revelation hung heavily in the room. Natalia's heart raced, a sense of dread creeping in as she realized this could lead to a painful discussion. Samuel, sensing the tension, stepped in. "Let's take a moment," he suggested, glancing between the two women. "There's no need to rush." But Clara's eyes were already filled with questions, and Natalia felt the weight of her past closing in. The night, once filled with warmth and camaraderie, took on a different tone, one that hinted at revelations that could change everything. Clara sat across from Natalia at the elegant dining table, the soft glow of candlelight flickering between them. The air was thick with unspoken words, each woman caught in the web of emotions that had spun tighter since their introduction. Clara's eyes glistened with memories she had long kept buried, and Natalia felt a strange resonance with the pain that lingered in the room. "Losing a child changes everything," Clara began, her voice barely above a whisper. "I often find myself replaying the moments leading up to the accident. What if I had done something differently? What if I had been there?" Her words trembled, and Natalia could see the weight of regret etched on her face. Natalia leaned forward, her heart pounding. "I can't imagine the pain you've gone through. I've always felt this emptiness inside me, a void I couldn't understand. It's like a piece of me was missing." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "I was raised by my mother, but she never spoke about my biological father or where I came from. It's as if my past was always a closed book." The two women shared a moment of silence, each grappling with their own histories. Finally, Clara broke the stillness. "It's strange, isn't it? How we can feel this connection with someone we barely know?" Natalia nodded, her eyes searching Clara's. "It is strange, but I felt it the moment I met you, like I was looking into a mirror reflecting what I could have been." Clara's gaze softened. "What do you think it means, this connection?" "I don't know," Natalia said, her voice steadying. "But I want to find out. What if we took a DNA test? It could tell us if there's more to our connection than just an instinctual feeling." Clara's breath caught in her throat, surprised by Natalia's suggestion. "Are you sure you're ready for that? What if the results aren't what we hope for? Whatever they are, I need to know. You've opened a door in my life that I didn't even know existed. I want to understand where I came from." After a moment of contemplation, Clara nodded. "All right, let's do it." The anticipation of the test loomed over them in the following days, a tangible mix of hope and trepidation that seemed to hang in the air. Natalia found herself lost in thought, often staring out the window while holding her baby, contemplating the possibilities. "I can't believe we're doing this," she murmured one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if it changes everything?" "It could," Clara replied, her tone serious. "But it could also bring us closer. We need to be prepared for either outcome." Days turned into an agonizing wait, and as they approached the date when the results would arrive, both women felt the weight of their decision pressing down on them. Natalia would often catch Clara staring into space, lost in thought, and she knew that both of them were wrestling with the same fears. The day finally arrived, and Clara and Natalia sat together on the couch, the envelope resting ominously between them. Clara reached for it, her hands shaking slightly. "Here goes nothing," she said, her voice a mixture of anxiety and excitement. "Open it," Natalia urged, her heart racing. With a deep breath, Clara tore open the envelope and unfolded the paper. As she read the results, disbelief washed over her face. "Oh my God," she breathed, tears welling in her eyes. "Natalia, you're my daughter." Natalia felt the world shift beneath her feet, a rush of emotions cascading over her like a waterfall. "What? Are you sure?" Clara nodded, her voice thick with emotion. "It's confirmed. You're my biological daughter." In that moment, the room exploded with a mixture of joy and sorrow. Natalia leaped into Clara's arms, both women enveloped in tears. The years of longing, the unanswered questions, and the pains of separation melted away in the warmth of their embrace. "I can't believe it," Natalia sobbed as Clara held her tight. "All this time I was searching for you?" "And I for you," Clara replied, her voice choked with emotion. "I never stopped thinking about you, even when I thought I had lost you forever." The two women remained entwined, feeling the weight of their shared history and the hope of a future together. In that moment, amidst the tears and the joy, something profound shifted within them both, a connection that transcended the years of separation, solidifying their bond as mother and daughter. As Natalia settled into her new life with Clara, the bond between them began to flourish. Their shared laughter echoed through the house, filling the once quiet rooms with warmth and a sense of belonging. Natalia continued to visit Samuel and Edovaldo regularly, bringing along her baby to let them bask in the joy of parenthood. Samuel found himself captivated by Natalia even more with each visit, his heart swelling with love that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. One evening, as they sat in Samuel's opulent living room, the golden light from the chandelier casting a warm glow, he turned to Natalia, his gaze intense. "You know, it feels like you've always been a part of my life, even before we met. I can't imagine my days without you now." Natalia looked into his eyes, a mixture of surprise and affection crossing her face. "I feel the same way, Samuel. You've shown me kindness that I never expected from someone like you." She paused, her expression turning serious. "But I also feel a bit lost. I've just found Clara, and I'm still trying to understand where I fit in all of this." Samuel nodded, understanding the complexity of her emotions. "We're all figuring things out as we go. You've found family in Clara, and I want to be part of that too. You mean so much to me." Their moment was interrupted when Edovaldo entered the room, holding an envelope that had just arrived. His face was grave, and the usual twinkle in his eyes was replaced by concern. "Samuel, I need to talk to you about this." He handed the envelope to Samuel, who opened it with a frown. "What is it?" Natalia asked, her heart racing as she sensed something was off. Edovaldo took a deep breath, his voice steady yet somber. "It's a letter from the family lawyer. There's something you need to know about your mother, Samuel." He paused, gauging Samuel's reaction. "It seems she had a different story than what we've always believed. You might not be biologically related to me." The words hung heavy in the air, and the room fell silent. Samuel's heart sank as he processed the revelation. "What do you mean? This can't be right." He could hardly breathe as a storm of emotions raged inside him. Edovaldo continued, "There's a family secret that's been kept hidden for years. I don't know all the details, but I thought you should know. It changes everything we thought we understood about our family." Natalia felt a pang of empathy for Samuel as she watched the struggle flicker across his face. "Samuel, I'm so sorry," she whispered, reaching out to touch his arm. He looked at her, the weight of uncertainty etched on his features. "I don't even know who I am anymore. Everything I believed about my identity is now crumbling." As the days passed, the gravity of Edovaldo's revelation lingered like a shadow. Samuel wrestled with his identity, feeling adrift in a sea of doubt. He found solace in Natalia's company, and she became a steady anchor for him during this tumultuous time. One day, while sitting in a quiet park, Samuel turned to Natalia, the autumn leaves swirling around them in a dance of colors. What if we're connected in ways we never understood? He ventured, a hint of hope in his voice. Natalia raised her eyebrows, intrigued. What do you mean? What if we were siblings? It's crazy, I know, but with everything that's happened, it feels like there's something more between us. Her heart raced at the thought, an unexpected thrill mingling with disbelief. You think that's possible? I don't know, but with the way fate has intertwined our lives, it's worth considering. As they contemplated the implications of their conversation, a sense of urgency grew within them. The looming family secrets felt less daunting when faced together. They decided to conduct a DNA test to uncover the truth. Days later, the results arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation. Samuel and Natalia stood side by side, their hearts pounding, as Samuel clicked open the email that would change everything. As he read the results, a mixture of shock and elation washed over him. Natalia, he breathed, unable to hold back his tears. We are siblings. We share the same blood. In that moment, the world around them faded away, leaving only the profound connection they had forged. They embraced tightly, tears streaming down their faces, overwhelmed by the unexpected joy of discovering family in each other. After everything we've been through, we found each other, Natalia whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Yes, Samuel replied, his heart swelling with love and gratitude. We're family now, and nothing will change that. In that embrace, they forged a new understanding of family, redefining their bond through love, loss, and the promise of a beautiful future together.